Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Tuesday night segment of Voices of Empowerment with Dr. B. I'm your girl, Dr. Bianca Miss B. Lee. I am a therapist, a coach, a mentor, spiritual reader, all of the things, astrologer, all of the things, whatever. Anything in pertaining to guiding, directing, healing, expounding, expanding our lives, your life, my life, all of our lives, because we are one of one as one. And so, in doing so, part of that is learning, growing, extending ourselves one to another, and getting different perspectives to add to ours, to change ours, learning more things, and understanding that some of the things that we previously had was not conducive or true. Hello, somebody. Okay, a lot of those things are here. You know what I'm saying? Hello. We have Joy Brown, aka my mama, coming from YouTube. Said hello, Miss B. Hello. We are airing, speaking of, she's viewing from YouTube, but we are airing from a Clubhouse, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, all over the place. And I am grateful for everybody, wherever you are viewing from, wherever you're listening from. Thankful for you being here, and sharing your energy, sharing the space. And it from wherever you're viewing, you can utilize, like my mama, aka Joy Brown, did. You can utilize the chat, the comment sections, and share your thoughts. That's what we're here to do. We're here to read and discuss. Now, if you are busy doing some things and you just want to hear the chapter reading, like as you would like a audible or something, feel free to do that. It's not a problem at all. But if you have 2 cents to add to the conversation, feel free to do that. Even if you're listening to the replay, understand that wherever, whomever, and whenever it's this listening to this program, this segment is listened to, then it'll be beneficial to someone, somewhere, wherever, whether we're even in this life or not. I love this day of digital um recording and all of those things, because we can record these things that will then transcend our very existence. You understand? This stuff is archived, right? We can already go back and replay things from, past broadcasts and stuff like that. We love that. We only used to be able to do that in TV, right? Now we can do it in all other things, all sorts of things. Now, trust me, there are some things that we don't need to run back. Hello, somebody. Okay. Some things is just absolute foolishness. However, there are things that we have to, especially in this day and age of erasure. And when I say erasure, I mean those of us who are in the brown, black, cultures. Our stories, our books, our histories, our monuments, all of the things are being erased in droves. Okay. So it takes platforms like mine, like others like mine. It takes books like the one that we're reading today. It takes all of these things in order for us to share our story. Otherwise, how will it get out there? Okay. If we stop talking, how will the story be shared? Okay. We will literally be erased as if we never existed. And that is a problem, because I saw somebody's post today, and it says what's crazy is people really think that our lives started with slavery. It did not. I'm here to tell you. You do realize that our people were kings and queens and emperors and empresses and pharaohs and all of the things, right? Our lives was interrupted by slavery. Don't ever get it twisted. Don't ever get it twisted. Understand, the brown and black story did not begin with slavery. It was interrupted by slavery. Okay? We've always known who we are. We've always known who we were. Problem is, once others realized who we were, they tried to diminish our own view in our own eyes. Right? That's why even in scripture it says the people perish for the lack of knowledge. Lack of what knowledge? Knowledge of who you are. That's why the very first question that I ask, it's on every platform I share, even in my first sessions with new clients. First question is, do you know who you are? Because as long as you don't know who you are, someone can tell you who they want you to be. And you'll believe it. That's why slavery was able to happen. That's why. As long as you are pliable, as long as you are able to be molded and shaped into what someone wants you to be, you will be that. Instead of knowing who you are, that takes a moment to go within yourself. Not mama them, not daddy them, not Boquisha them and Ray Ray and Pookie them. No, 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 no. Who are you? Who are you? Rafiki in The Lion King, he said to Simba, he said, oh, you know my father? He said, you knew my father? He said, correction. I know your father. Meaning, your father may not be present in this land right now, but he's still here, sir. That's that ancestor 101 for those who don't know. Just because we in this physical life does not mean that our life is over, okay? Our presence, our spirit is still here. Spirit never dies. We come from spirit into the physical realm, back to spirit. Never dead. Never dead. Okay? He said, correction. I know your father. And then he says, well, who are you? He said, question is, who are you? That's the question. Who are you? I know some 60, 70, 80-year-olds that still have no answer to that question. No answer to that question. They can start off by saying, I'm a father, I'm a mother, I'm a teacher, I'm a that. No, you just gave me titles. You gave me the titles that you became on this human journey. I didn't ask you what your titles were. I asked who you were. Who are you? Who are you? Who were you before you took on a title? Right? I invite you all to take a deep dive and go within. If you need some assistance, I'm here to do that. I'm here to help you. All right. But speaking of knowing who you are, we have to first, in order to understand where because we all know where we want to go, right? We always say, oh, I want to do this. We have these goals, especially New Year's. Oh, the resolutions. I call them the resolutions, okay? Because we definitely be lying to ourselves. Show of hands. Don't show your hands. How many of y'all are still doing the resolutions that you said you were going to do on January 1st? Okay, don't tell on yourself. It's okay. It's okay. It was a rhetorical question. It's okay. It's okay. I know a good 95% of you are not, okay? But it's okay. It's okay. You don't have to, you don't have to expose yourself. We already know, okay? Love you, mean it. I promise I do. But if I didn't tell the truth, I wouldn't love you if I didn't tell you your truth, okay? But the thing is, we know what we want, where we want to go, right? Hey, Big Crave on the Clubhouse. We know where we want to go. We know where we are, if we're honest. Let me put that on there. If we're honest with ourselves. Come on now. That's a difficult thing for people to do too. Be real with self. Like raw, real, right? Without condemnation, without judgment, without, all of the stuff, without shame, without all of that guilt attached to it. Just be square with yourself. Be honest with yourself. And identify where you currently are in yourself, in your mind, in your body, in your will, in your emotions, in your spirituality, in your habits, in your money. Be real with yourself. Be real with yourself. You are the longest relationship you have ever had and will ever have. You with you. And if you can't be honest with yourself, then how in the world can you expect others to be honest with you? Come on now. Come on now. We do that a lot. Ask others to be stuff that we are not even to ourselves. Stop playing. Right? Look at yourself today and identify where you are. Where you are. Where am I? We know where we want to go. Identify where we are, truthfully. But we also have to go back to the beginning of it all to identify where we went off course. Right? We have to, what they say, retrace our steps. And that's what this book is doing for us right now. It is forcing us to retrace our steps. This book is called Caste, The Origins of Our Discontents, written by Isabel Wilkerson. And when I tell you, this book beautifully retraces our steps, not just ours in the American South and Jim Crow and all of the things, right? Transatlantic slave trade, but it also went to the Nazis and Germans and all of the things. It went to the beginning of that. It went to the beginning of the Dalits over in India and the caste system over there. It's so crazy because if it were not for this book, I would not have known that actual Adolf Hitler fashioned how he was going to overthrow that country and rule that country by off of what Americans in the South did in slavery. He looked to Americans in the South, the Europeans over in the South who enslaved Blacks and indigenous people. He looked to them as role models and the blueprint, and never quite got it down because he says, I don't understand. I'm doing what they're doing, but how are they coming out squeaky clean and I'm the enemy? I don't understand how they're making their way out of stuff innocent. And it's being seen as a good thing. He said, why am I the villain? I'm doing what they're doing. In fact, even with the 1/3 rule, okay, 1/3 rule, that's the blood. Americans said that unless you have a third, if you have a third of Black blood in your DNA, in your system, you are considered Black. A third, a small third, a third, right? Over there, he even said, he was like, I can't even go that far. Okay, I can't even go that, no, because there's no way to prove that. He said, I can't even go that far. He says, if you have 2 to 3 grandparents, that's, then okay, we can consider you not Jewish or something like that. You know what I mean? He said he couldn't even go that far. There were stipulations and boundaries that even Adolf Hitler didn't cross. Man, these are the things that we're learning in this book. But we cannot heal what we refuse to reveal. And for us, we have to reveal the things. We have to reveal the things in order to know where we're going, okay? We have to confront the hard topics. Everybody's so intimidated by it, and we're so scared and, worried about the backlash, okay? We're in part 6 right now of this book entitled Backlash. All right? And then chapter 26, we only read a chapter per session because I need you all to really chew on this. This is not a book that we're reading for speed. I don't care about speed. I don't care how long it takes us. I need us to get it and really chew on it, digest it, and understand it. All right? And then go and allow it to provoke conversation in your own households, especially if you are of brown and Black descent. You need to be talking. You need to be talking because they are erasing you outside of your house. You need to be talking, right? All right, chapter 26, Turning Point and the Resurgence of Caste. Like I said, at any point you hear something that pops out to you, utilize the chat, utilize the comment section. I will give voice to your words, or you can, come up and say what you got to say and let everybody on all the other platforms that we're airing on hear your voice as well. But if not, and you just want to listen, feel free to do so. I will tell you at the end of the segment how you can get your own copy as well. It's free. Yes, we are a nonprofit, 501c3. Yes, we do welcome donations. They are welcome, but they are not required for you to get and receive any free publication that we read. It is what it is. I would like for you to have it. The books that we read are intentional. They're deliberate. And I think they are, no matter what the topic, they are necessary for your library, okay? Don't just take the books and don't read them. Read them, okay? Read them. Study to show yourself approved, okay? All right, here we go. Part 6, Backlash, Chapter 26, Turning Point, and the Resurgence of Caste. In the final breaths of 2015, an influential gathering of political insiders in Washington were seeing in the new year. It was the eve of an election season that was considered of great significance before it had even begun. I felt out of my orbit whenever I was in official Washington, and so I gravitated towards Gwen Eiffel, whom I had known for years and had not seen in some time. Back during our days at the New York Times, I had been a narrative writer focused on everyday people rather than the halls of power, as she had been, the intuitive empath to her political savant. I went straight up to her. So, I began, what are you thinking? The first seconds of 2016 were approaching, and she knew exactly what I meant. I hesitated to proffer my own opinion at first. Gwen was the beloved co-host of the News Hour on PBS. She was a long-standing, clear-eyed Washington sage whom I, along with millions of others, admire for her brilliance and sixth sense, for how she had taken to the sharky waters of the Capitol as if born to it, always rising above it somehow. She was an embed in a political ecosystem that I had little patience for. I didn't know if what I was feeling compelled to say would sound wildly off base or preposterous to someone as steeped in establishment Washington as she was. For some reason, I felt the need to whisper. This was supposed to be a party, after all, champagne pouring all around us, a celebration to ring in 2016. There were people from the current administration and perhaps people in the Democratic frontrunners campaign, for all I knew, or in any case, certainly people supporting the frontrunner and expecting a continuing through line of the forward-thinking perspectives carried forth by what would seem soon be the outgoing administration. So I leaned in and lowered my voice. People are not paying attention, I said. I believe he could win. I didn't say his name, and I didn't have to. It was still early. The primaries had yet to begin, but momentum had been building for the celebrity billionaire from the time he announced his candidacy the previous June from the escalator of his tower in Manhattan, accusing Mexicans of bringing crime, drugs, and rape across the border and vowing to build a wall. Most journalists and media outlets were not taking him seriously, so I wondered what Gwen thought. No question, she said, of course, he could absolutely win. I was not a political animal by any measure, but what I did know was the caste system, so I went on. I think it's all about 2042, I said. Exactly, she said, her face firm and resolute. Her response, forthright and assured, was as unsettling as it was affirming of my own instincts, because if she, with her impeccable radar, was thinking this, then it was very likely to be true. We exchanged knowing glances of acceptance of the otherwise inconceivable, as if it were already settled, whether the rest of the country realized it or not, because it was bigger than him, had always been bigger than him, and now all that was left to do was to watch it play out. Gwen lived just long enough to see her predictions come true and tragically passed away the week after the election. This was a loss to the country at the precise time that it could have benefited from her even-tempered analysis. That prophetic conversation was the last I would have with her, and it now seems all the more powerful in the years that followed. Spring 2016 and into the summer. The election was virtually all that anyone could talk about. One banner headline after another. One time-honored norm shattered after another. A presidential candidate who blew off a major debate in the primaries. A presidential candidate caught on tape boasting about grabbing women by the genitalia. A presidential candidate mocking a disabled reporter, arms and hands flailing, face jerking as might a middle school child. A presidential candidate deriding the grieving parents of an American war hero who happened to be Muslim. A presidential candidate demeaning an American war hero, John McCain, because he had been captured. The latest breaking news report would be announced before we had even absorbed the last one. A new lexicon forming before our eyes. Surely you don't think he has a chance of winning? A French intellectual asked me when I happened to be in Paris months before the election. Well, yes, he could, I told her. He's on the ballot. He could very well win. America would never do that, she said dismissively. Caste does not explain everything in American life, but no aspect of American life can be fully understood without considering caste and embedded hierarchy. Many political analysts and left leaning observers did not believe that a Trump win was possible and were blindsided by the outcome in 2016, in part because they had not figured into their expectations the degree of reliable consistency of caste as an enduring variable in American life and politics. The liberal take was that working class whites have been voting against their interests in supporting right wing oligarchs, but that theory diminishes the agency and caste oriented principles of the people. Many voters, in fact, made an assessment of their circumstances and looked beyond immediate short term benefits and toward, from their perspective, the larger goals of maintaining dominant caste status and their survival in the long term. They were willing to lose health insurance now, risk White House instability and government shutdowns, external threats from faraway lands, in order to preserve what their actions say they value most: the benefits they had grown accustomed to as members of the historically ruling caste in America. Trump channeled insecurities and disaffection that went deeper than economics. Researchers have found white voters preference their Donald Trump, wrote the political scientist John Sides, Michael Tesler, and Lynn Vavrick, was weakly related to their own job security, but strongly related to concerns that minorities were taking jobs away from whites. The tremors within the dominant caste had been building long before Trump announced his candidacy. Defections accelerated over the course of Obama's presidency, Sides, Tesler, and Vavrick wrote. This is why racial aptitudes appear the more likely culprit. In fact, no other factor predicted changes in white partisanship during Obama's presidency as powerfully and consistently as racial attitudes, they said. The researchers consider this kind of group hypervigilance to be what they call racialized economics, the belief that undeserving groups are getting ahead while your group is left behind. That's why they when they rolled back DEI, which is diversity, equality, and inclusion, they renamed it "Didn't Earn It." Okay, they said that we have our leadership, executive, blah 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 roles because of affirmative action. That's what Charlie Kirk was saying too. Didn't earn it, right? The precarity of their lives and the changing demographics of the country induced a greater need to maintain whatever advantages they had come to expect and to shore up the one immutable characteristic that has held the most weight in the American caste system. Whites' racial attitudes are not merely defined by prejudice, writes Ashley Jarnada of Duke University. Many whites also possess a sense of racial identity and are motivated to protect their group's collective interests and to maintain its status. Whiteness is now a salient and central component of American politics. White racial solidarity influences many whites' worldview and guides their political attitudes and behavior. Consciously or not, many white voters are seeking to reassert a racial order in which their group is firmly at the top. And this is true. She said it, consciously or not. So whether they even realize they're doing this or not, we are born into these belief systems, okay? So if you are surrounded by a family, right? If you are white, and you were born into a family where Paw and great Paw and grandma and mama and great mama and all of them were just as racist as the day is long. And they remember when, like Trump says, when America was great, when people knew their place. When the man was the ruling one in the house and the woman was submissive and she was bearing the babies and cooking and cleaning, knew her place. And the black and brown people were in the fields. They knew their place. Yeah. They were born. Today's white population was born in those families, whether you all like to admit it or not. Just do the ancestry, look at someone's European ancestry journey when they go deep into their ancestral lineage. I remember when Paula Deen did hers down in Savannah, Georgia. I watched the program. And she did not realize, like she was flabbergasted. We weren't surprised, but she was apparently, to learn that her people owned slaves. Ma'am, you were born and raised in Savannah, Georgia. What did you think? Down in the Delta, below the Mason-Dixon line, from Virginia, where the first ship landed in 1619. Come on now, all the way down south. The reality is, you may not, quote unquote, be racist, but these racial things are in your veins. You were raised in it. So that's why she wrote here, consciously or not, whether you realize you're doing it or not, many white voters are seeking to reassert a racial order in which their group is firmly at the top, because you were raised to believe that your group is supposed to be at the top. Always. Always. Whether you say it, admit it, whatever, trust me, it's in there. The 2016 election thus became a cracked mirror held up to a country that had not been forced in this way to search its origins in more than a generation, and was now seeing itself perhaps for the first time as it truly was. It was the culmination of forces that had been building for decades. In a caste context, the two main political parties bear the advantages and burdens of the caste they most attract and with which they are associated. At times, the stigma and double standard attached to disfavored minorities have accrued to the Democrats, while the privilege and latitude accorded the dominant caste has accrued to the Republicans, who have come to be seen as proxies for white America. You know what's crazy is, in the beginning, it was the blacks that were the Republicans and the whites that were Democrats. If you go back politically in history, it was a total reverse. Total reverse. I don't know where the difference came. Okay. This, in part, explains the unforgiving scrutiny and the obstructions faced by Democrats like Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, and before them, John Kerry and Al Gore, as white support has intensified for Republicans, now seen as the party of an anxious but powerful dominant caste electorate. Clinton, the former Secretary of State, was widely viewed as having won the presidential debates, despite her opponents stalking of her at the podium and calling her a nasty woman. She was seen as having carried herself with dignity and exhibiting a polished, if stiff, mastery of domestic and foreign affairs. Yet in polling, She rarely managed to pull much beyond the margin of error against a man considered by some to be the least qualified person ever to run for president. There were many factors at work in the 2016 election, among them foreign interference and barriers to voting that disproportionately affected marginalized voters. Still, Clinton's loss in electoral college seems shocking until one considers caste and the historic challenges that subordinate caste candidates, meaning African American candidates, have often faced on election day despite favorable polling. Seen from a caste perspective, Clinton perhaps suffered from a version of the Bradley effect, which is inflated polling numbers that do not materialize on election day due to people telling pollsters what they believe is the socially acceptable answer about their voting plans, but then choosing differently in the voting booth. This is what happened in Los Angeles to the Los Angeles mayor, Tom Bradley, when he ran for governor of California in 1982. That will have made an inability to rise above the margin of error a harbinger of tough election days. Cass gives insights into Democrats' wistful yearning for white working class voters that they believe should respond in higher numbers to their kitchen table appeals. Why? Some people on the left kept asking, why, oh, why were these people voting against their own interest? The questioners on the left were unseeing and yet so certain. What they had not considered was that the people voting this way were in fact voting their interest. Maintaining the caste system as it had always been was in their interest. And some were willing to accept short-term discomfort, forego health insurance, risk contamination of the water and air, and even die to protect their long-term interests in the hierarchy as they had known it. When you're caught in the caste system, you will likely do whatever it takes to survive in it. If you are insecurely situated somewhere in the middle, below the very top but above the very bottom, you may distance yourself from the bottom and hold up barriers against those you see as below you to protect your own position. You will emphasize the inherited characteristics that rank higher on the caste scale. In the voting booth, many people make an automatic, subconscious assessment of their station, their needs and wishes, and the multiple identities they carry: working class, middle class, rich, poor, white, black, male, female, Asian, Latino. They often align themselves not with those whose plight they may share, but with those whose power and privilege intersect with a trait of their own. People with overlapping self-interest will often gravitate towards a personal characteristic that accords them the most status. Many make an existential, aspirational choice. They vote up rather than across, and usually not down. They believe that they know who will protect the interests of the trait that gives them the most status and that matters most to them. In the pivotal election of 2016, whether consciously or not, the majority of whites voted for the candidate who made the most direct appeals to the characteristic most rewarded in the caste system. They went with the aspect of themselves that grants them the most power and status in the hierarchy. According to New York Times exit polling of 24,537 respondents, 58% of white voters chose the Republican Donald Trump, and only 37% went for the Democrat Hillary Clinton. While she won nearly 3 million more votes than Trump by the popular count, she attracted a smaller share of the white vote than any Democratic candidate other than Jimmy Carter in his failed bid for re-election against Ronald Reagan in 1980. The parties have grown so divided by race, writes the political scientist Liliana Mason, that simple racial identity without policy content is enough to predict party identity. There was perhaps no clearer measure of white solidarity than the actions of white women in 2016. The majority of them, 53%, disregarded the common needs of women, and went against a fellow white woman to vote with their own power trait, the white side of their identity to which Trump appealed, rather than help an experienced woman and themselves make history. Trump was ushered into office by whites concerned about their status, Jardina writes, and his political priorities are plainly aimed at both protecting the racial hierarchy and at strengthening its boundaries. These are people who feel that the rug is being pulled out from under them, that the benefits they have enjoyed because of their race, their group's advantages, and their status atop the racial hierarchy are all in jeopardy. A subliminal awareness of the power cast, though the world would rarely, if ever, be used, the word would rarely be ever be used, appears also to be at work to whatever degree in how the parties respond to their respective bases. The Republican reverence for its base of white evangelicals stands in stark contrast to the indifference often shown to the Democrat base of African Americans, who are devalued for a host of reasons, among them their suppressed status at the top, at the bottom of the social hierarchy. For the Republicans, the singularity of focus, the sense of rallying around an existential threat, combined with the inherent caste advantages of the collective wealth and influence of its voters overall, gives the GOP a seeming advantage in firing up its supporters against Democrat opposition. For their part, Democrats constitute a diffuse majority of the electorate, but seen at times lukewarm toward a base that the party has often lectured to or taken for granted, chided, if ever there is lower than expected turnout, despite voter suppression, sadly buying into caste assumptions rather than bolstering their most loyal voters, as do the Republicans with theirs. Democrats expend energy and weaken their power pining for the die-hard voters of their opponents, the homecoming queens of the electorate, while taking for granted the majority that they already have. As the most loyal voters of their respective parties, white evangelicals are to Republicans what African Americans are to Democrats, though each makes up a minority of the total electorate. But the foremost concerns of the Democrats' most reliable voting bloc, affordable housing, clean water, police brutality, the racial wealth gap, and reparations for state sanctioned discriminations, as has been accorded other groups discriminated against in the United States. I want to stop. I want to pause there. Yes, reparations for state sanctioned discrimination. Do you realize that African Americans are literally the only group that has not been awarded reparations, who has been previously discriminated against in the United States? Native Americans get reparations. Mhm. Other cultures receive reparations from the United States. African Americans are literally the only race that does not receive reparations for discriminations during slavery. You know why? Because these United States are not sorry that they enslaved African Americans. That's why. In fact, they want to make America great again and kick it back up. And I'm going to continue. They have remained on the back burner or have even been considered radioactive issues for the party that African Americans helped to sustain. To those who say that this would be impractical, it would be the duty of the party representing and dependent on the subordinate caste to open the eyes of their fellow Americans and make the case for a more egalitarian country. Meanwhile, the priorities of white evangelicals, ending abortion, restricting immigration, protecting gun rights, limiting government, and more recently, the disdain for science and the denial of climate change, have become the menu of belief systems for the Republican Party. What most distinguishes white American evangelicals from other Christians other religious groups and non-believers is not theology, but politics. Writes Seth Dolan, associate professor of the religion at Pacific Lutheran University and author of Family Values and the Rise of the Christian Right. Over the course of the 20th century, the Evangelical Coalition entwined theology, whiteness, and conservative politics. To identify as evangelical in the early 21st century signals commitments to gun rights, the abolition of legal abortion, and low taxes. People identifying as white evangelicals, regardless of their personal religiosity, rallied around Trump to defend a white Protestant nation. Dolan writes, they have proven to be loyal foot soldiers in a battle against undocumented immigrants and Muslims. The triumph of gay rights, the persistence of legal abortion, and the election of Barack Obama signaled to them a need to fight for America they once knew. The 2016 election became a remarkable blueprint of caste hierarchy in America, from the highest to lowest status. In a given group support of the Republican, white men voted for Trump at 62%, white women at 53%, Latino men at 32%, Latino women at 25%, African American men at 13%, and Black women at 4%. Unlike the majority of white voters, every other group of voters supported the Democrat in 2016. The Democratic vote went as follows: white men, 31%, white women, 43%, Latino men, 63%, Latino women, 69%, African American men, 82%, African American women, whose race and gender together put them at the bottom of the country's artificial hierarchy, supported the white female Democrat by 94%. While CNN did not break down the Asian vote by gender, Asians, like other non-whites, voted overwhelmingly for Clinton at 65% versus 27% for Trump, tracking the Latino vote overall. Trump fared well against Clinton with all categories of white voters at every age and education level, though his percentages were higher for whites who had no college degree, 66% for Trump, 29% for Clinton, than those who had a college degree, 48% for Trump, 45% for Clinton. Contrary to popular assumptions that economic insecurity was a driver of the 2016 outcome, Trump beat Clinton in most every income level except those who were least economically secure, those making less than $50,000 per year. This could be seen as a reflection of the fact that marginalized voters in general, and Black voters in particular, those more likely to support the Democrat, make up a disproportionate share of voters with lower incomes. With these stark racial patterns, the 2016 election seemed a consolation of rank among the historic ruling caste, even though white Americans still comprise a clear political majority and continue to possess most of the country's wealth, observed the legal scholar Robert L. Sy. It is possible to stoke outlandish fears of a coming reckoning where racial and ethnic minorities will seek to subjugate white citizens. The sense of perceived injury found a voice in 2016. These aggrieved whites are a potentially untapped well, Jardina wrote, one whose resentments are primed, ready to be stoked by politicians willing to go down a potentially very dark path. For this reason, the ruptures exposed in 2016 transcend a single election or candidate and go well beyond the initial theories of economic insecurity as the driver of the white vote. In many ways, a sense of group threat is a much tougher opponent than an economic downturn, wrote the political scientist Diana Mutz, because it is a psychological mindset rather than an actual event or misfortune. Once in office, The 45th president made no secret of his laser focus on the desires of his base, whether out of personal animus, political calculation, philosophical disagreement, or a conviction that the last president damaged the country. Mr. Trump was made clear that if it has Mr. Obama's name on it, he would just as soon erase it from the national hard drive, wrote the New York Times White House correspondent Peter Baker. Those susceptible to dominant group status threat, Mutz wrote, will do whatever they can to protect the hierarchy that has benefited them to regain a sense of dominance and well-being. The election outcome alone had his base feeling better. A couple of days after the election, two middle-aged white men with receding hairlines and reading glasses took their seats in first class on a flight from Atlanta to Chicago. They suspected, by looking at each other and knowing the polling results, that they were likely on the same team. It didn't take them long to confirm that they were. Last 8 years, one of them said, worst thing that ever happened. I'm so glad it's over. It was bigger than an election, the other said. It was one of the most amazing events I think we'll ever witness. I stayed up all night to watch it. Yeah, well, I went to bed that night thinking I'd be crying the next morning. Woke up, best news I ever heard. There's justice in this world. They made a bad choice with her, one said. The current president was a bad choice, the other said. He was in over his head. It's a beautiful day. Yep, finally got it right. Yes, sirree. Wow. And that was in the 2016 election, y'all. She's wrote this since that election. But look at where we are now. He has re-entered the office. Okay? He's re-entered the office. And it hasn't even been a year. This man has only been in office 9 months. And mayhem and chaos has already ensued. Project 2025 immediately started taking place. I kept telling you all to read it. Read it, read it, read it. Read it, read it, read it. Okay? We need to know. We need to know. We need to face these things. We need to confront these things. We need to have these hard conversations in order for us to really sit down and understand. Listen, there's a whole system operating against us. Whole system. They're literally trying to reestablish that order that took out some of our ancestors. Next chapter, we will get into it on Sunday, chapter 27, the symbols of caste. The symbols of caste. I really want to get into that because we have a military base that represents some of the symbols of caste. We have statues around here that represent some of the symbols of caste. Okay? It's like a constant reminder of who's in charge and who did this to us and things like that. Now, in other countries, they've gotten rid of all monuments to any type of enemy, past, bully, all of that. They've gotten rid of all of that because they are not to be reminded of that foolishness in that time. Not the U.S. Oh, no. No. They're celebrating, high-fiving, glorifying the colonizers and the oppressors and the abusers, celebrating it, honoring it, reveling in it. Yeah, I'm excited about reading that chapter, okay? Although it may be, I'm sure it's hard to read, but yeah. Alrighty, you all, listen, if you do not have your copy of the book, I told you, I was going to tell you exactly where you can get it. You can reach me, inbox me, send me a message, and I will send you the copy. It is a PDF, ebook version of it. So you can pick it up and read it from your phone, from your tablet, from your computer, wherever you go, it will go with you. So if you want to keep up with it and read passages on your lunch break, whatever the case, please do so. Okay. I'm going to tell you something. We're on chapter 27, right? Some of those earlier chapters are very hard to swallow. I would be reading them and I would break down in tears on the air from facing some of that stuff, but we have to face it. We have to face it, okay? Alrighty, so if you want to get your copy, you can send me a message from wherever you're viewing from or listening from, in the inbox, comments, whatever the case. Or you can email me at info@biancamissblee.com. Again, that's info@biancamissblee.com. And you can send me the email that you want to receive your ebook version, and I will send it over to you personally, okay? You can also visit my website on Clubhouse. It's right above my head. Tap that link above me, and you'll go straight to the website. On every other platform on the screen, it's right there. And you can visit the website to see everything that I do, whatever I offer. You can take advantage of that. You can partake in some of the merchandise that I have, my books, all of that stuff. You can get it on my website or even Walmart.com, okay? You can also see the latest astrology transits. You can see all of the things that I do and see how it can benefit you, all right? Follow me on social media, you all, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, all of the places. Clubhouse, everywhere wherever. Follow me there, okay? And it's all under Dr. Bianca Miss Lee, okay? Alrighty, listen, you all, I love you. I mean it. There is absolutely positively nothing you can do about it. Don't you even try it. We'll see you back here on Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Voices of Empowerment with Dr. B. Peace.